cold and the ice and the snow to come be with us. Some of us are just in the building, and so we're good.
Great the elevator.
Some have come all the way from northern New Jersey. Thank you very much. So I'm welcoming you today. We wanted to do a fundraiser for my adopted daughter. So Olya and I met.
And early intervention and group techniques. So everything that is EMDR group and early intervention, we tried first year and then developed further, and then did a lot of research. And now we're able to use it in Israel.
That's right. Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about Olya. Other than that, from my perspective, she is a full professor in the mental health counseling department at Regent University in Virginia Beach, Virginia. She's the founder of the International Institute of Postgraduate Education in Kyiv, Ukraine, that's focused on educating Ukrainian psychologists in trauma therapy. It currently has 200 clinicians in training and about 600 graduates. She has started a clinic in Kyiv, Ukraine called Open Doors and the Ukraine Trauma Therapy Institute. I mean, they train a tremendous amount of people. And currently it serves 400 clients monthly, providing 1,300 hours of direct client care a month online and in person. The other thing that makes it really personal for me is that my family is originally from Ukraine. So both of my grandfathers were born in Ukraine and came. Of course, we thought it was Russia. So, but now we know better. So I'm looking forward to the day to go to Ukraine. I'm assured that I have a room. Bob and I have a room in
You may have a floor.
House or a floor. So someday, hopefully soon, when the war has ended, we will go visit her in Ukraine.
That's right. That's right.
So I'd like to introduce my good friend, colleague, and daughter now.
That's right. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Yep.
So I just will briefly share about things that we do and why we do it. We started this project in 2012 when I became first a professor at Regent University. I took my master's and PhD students to Ukraine, and that was pre-war. And we started a trauma therapy program a counseling program in southern Ukraine, in Kherson, a city that was then occupied and now delivered. Now is under Ukrainian government again. So then soon, at that time, we actually were able to travel with our team to Crimea, to Ukrainian Crimea that was not occupied yet. So when war happened in 2014, that was all very personal to us as a team at Regent and our small team then. We supervised clinicians then who asked, can you do more trauma training for us? So we have so many military going through our villages. We need to be able to engage and help and somehow screen and be able to support. So we did, and we started developing very quickly. We found out about EMDR community that was tremendously supportive. We first actually started building relationships with humanitarian assistance programs that now Bob is on their board as well.
But you know what, you don't know, but originally way back, what's his name, Bondarenko.
Andrei, I think.
Yeah,
You had a training, and
they had a
you
training with Steve Silver and Barbara Corzin and who's the other one? Steve Silver, Jerry Puck went. Yeah,
and I think
I
think Roger went as
no,
well.
Roger didn't go
Originally. Okay, so anyways, we developed a program that then we moved to Kiev because we couldn't go to the south anymore safely. Our school wouldn't allow us. And we developed then an institute that basically became a very important thing about Ukraine is that it's post-Soviet system, rudimentary Soviet system in all of it, in medical and mental health field. So people have psychology degrees and never had clinical internship. So we basically provide that 2-year of clinical internship with weekly supervisions and training in EMDR and cognitive processing therapy and theory and practice, that psychopathology, right, diagnosis. So people are really up to speed and can diagnose and do treatment planning. So we further developed a clinic, and it was quite difficult for us to think about the clinic and direct services because it's like a liability. You have to really take responsibility for the clients. We did. We developed a center now. We have an office downtown Kiev, And about that, about 1,300 hours provided by about 70 clinicians are working there right now. Most online, of course, but some in person, face to face. And we're able to deliver about 1,300 hours of direct client contact a month. So we provide services to military and veterans and families for free, regardless if we have money or not. It's just how we serve. It's what we believe. We also started a project. I have a picture circulating here. We have currently a pilot project in 4 hospitals in Ukraine, 4 hospitals, where we train clinicians and we programmed EMDR protocol in those headsets. Mm-hmm. And now we are working as part of multidisciplinary teams on those in those programs. We supervise clinicians, psychologists in that, and basically able to deliver like state-of-the-art, newest technology, and pilot it and study and see if we can be efficient with that. And we see that we can, because a lot of times, like young military saying, well, I just need to be strong, I need to overcome. It's year 4 of large-scale invasion, right? So it's a lot of stress symptomology, and people who've been functioning normal, now it starts to accumulate. So you need to pay a little bit attention. But as long as you do some maintenance, early intervention, these guys are going to be okay. I'm saying guys because 90% of men are fighting and 10% women. Of course, we have women, but still there's a very high number of men that is fighting. So those men, a lot of times they're shy and they would not want to engage with a therapist. But if you give them something cool like a headset and 360 and you program that EMDR protocol in, all of a sudden they want to get engaged, and that is not embarrassing. So we're trying all kinds of things like that. Now this 4 hospital project grows into 8 hospital project that is going to be launched from January 1st. Our biggest need right now is, this services to military and the families and children as well. We have outstanding children clinicians. But we're not able to provide treatment, PTSD treatment inpatient, other than maybe partnerships with hospitals as a multidisciplinary team, but we cannot set up our own. And so we are in the process of building a center that would be exactly what we're envisioning. This war, unfortunately, is not ending. I really wish I would be wrong here, and I would say, oh, it's going to be ending soon. Every Ukrainian wants for that to be ending soon. And if it ends soon, we will have even more need for mental health services. But at the moment, we're seeing that the biggest need is to sustain the people that we have that are active. That is, you will see a couple of shots, and I put them on purpose, of like regular life. So like a cottage cheese lady is selling cheese on the street, right, next to my house, which is not kind of what you probably expect to see when you're just watching the news. But you see kids, you may see kids in the schools, or you could see kids being online, or even playgrounds when there is no area alerts, they're playing. So life goes on, and our main purpose right now is to support people who are fighting. They're fighting, some of them, praise God, for 4 years and still alive. It's great, but they need some help to be sustained. And if I could have an inpatient setting where I could have a 3-week program, I could do some early intervention stuff, get them really in a good mental health place, right? They would go and do more of the good things. And keeping people vibrant, healthy, in this environment, I call it sometimes a race. You have to breathe, right? You have to breathe in and out. Then this is how you run a marathon. You have to get a rhythm and you have to breathe in and out. Mm-hmm. So this kind of maintenance things is what I see is the biggest need right now. And we really would like to set up such programming. We need a building for that. But programming means that you could set up 3-week, maybe intense inpatient. You could grab people who have intense symptomology, but they're not really clinical sample, right? I'm talking to a lot of clinicians here. Not clinical sample. They are functioning. They're still on the front lines, and you give them a little bit, and they thrive. Like a lot of times, we are able to process recent events in just 1 session, and it's efficient, right? 3 weeks could be a cool thing, and then you have a place that could earn the reputation of basically fueling up people who are most active, that nuclear citizenship piece that is fighting, that is active, that needs some energy. So that is our vision, that is what we are striving to do. And we are right in the middle of it. I think we're positioned great. We are #1 program in Ukraine, I'm not embarrassed to say. We're very, very good because we set it up by American standard, and then we added evidence-based protocols that we know work, and we supervise our folks. We give them weekly supervisions. They're really good. So Israel, I know I need to say that after October 7th was personal to us. We could relate very much as Ukrainians to horrors that we've been seeing on videos that day and following days. And we've been asked by Regent University's leadership if we could engage in Israel and share our experience in Ukraine with Israelis, and especially, I don't know if everybody realizing that actually most of the citizens or population in Israel that was suffering is north and south, right? It's on the border with Lebanon and next to Gaza Strip. So those are very heavily Russian-speaking populations, because when you first come as a new immigrant, a lot of times if you don't have money, you are offered to settle in those areas. So when we've been invited to do some work there, we've been asked, well, if you could do that in Russian language so that that could serve to people there, because we have a lot of trainings in Hebrew, but we do not have, and actually we don't have anything for Russian speaking. So we said, okay, Russian is not necessarily a language we're really excited about right now, but for us Israeli people, we understand and we'll do that. We did. And we've been accepted with a lot of enthusiasm and thanksgiving and invitation, to the point that we have developed a 2-year program now there in specializing in trauma and child care, family, because you can imagine Israel is a little different than Ukraine in lots of things, in social structures and how they fight the war, right? Ukrainians, mostly men are fighting, and men younger than 25 are not mobilized, are not drafted to the army. They are doing army trainings, but they're not drafted, they can volunteer. Israelis, they draft young people, right, and reservists, and they draft male and female equally. In Ukraine, females are not drafted, so they can volunteer, other than maybe medical professionals, though for the most part medical professionals also volunteer and then they're drafted. So in Israel we see, of course, families, right? So that a lot of times would be male and female, both serving, or maybe one now staying home with kids and really wanted to serve. And so this, they call current last, like month, whatever, that peace agreement was reached, so reservists started to be released, and we started seeing more of the suicide rates going up, unfortunately, amongst reservists, and some more of the adjustment, and there's lots of adjustment that need to happen in the family. So we're working with those issues as well. We're doing some trainings that target family relationships, especially military families, children, stabilizing, working with child trauma, grief and loss, and of course trauma in general. So those are kind of things that we do, what we're passionate about, what we are accomplishing. I don't know, I'll take any questions.
Where are you in building the hospital, the rehab center?
So we purchased land, paid for that. We got electricity, so like electric box, everything set up. That is big piece. We finished the project and all of the blueprints for first building. That is 4 floors. One is underground with the bombing shelter. If we have to, we could actually do full operation from that underground one, 3 floors up. So we finished that. We are in the process, so City Council needed to give us permission to develop a larger city blueprint, because we're outside of the village city line. So they took a vote on that 2 weeks ago, and we're waiting for the documents to be signed. Then we can do that, they can take another vote, and that would be our building permit. So once that is done, we are able to go full force. We raised money for the project and all of those permits, we have that. So next we need money for actually breaking the ground. And that is 3.2 million building project for that one building. That is going to be 50 beds, but also it's 3 floors. So it's several, I think 3 group rooms and multiple rooms for doctors and mental health counselors, psychologists to see people. So whole floor, clinical floor, one office floor, one residential floor, and one on the ground floor that could be conferences or multi-purpose. As I said, they can run a program from there. So 3.2 million would cover that building, and our builder is saying that once they break the ground, they can deliver it in 12 months. I don't know, that's what they're saying. It would be nice. Yeah, it would be nice because that would give us the facility that we need to do that kind of next step programming that we really need to do.
Is anybody doing inpatient now in terms of the trauma work and then sending people back to the front?
So as I said, it's rudimentary Soviet system. So you would have psychiatric hospitals. Psychiatric hospitals do some of that, but they would not be doing anything that you would imagine being psychotherapy. So that would be a lot of medical treatment, some psychiatric treatment, lots of testing. I don't know why like you understand MMPI. I don't know why somebody would want to do MMPI with a soldier who's written that. They do it,
right.
who's traumatized, yeah, and what's the point of it there? So they do one psychiatric unit I'm specifically thinking about. We've been able to collaborate with them for a bit, but it's just system is not, you can't, it's too chaotic to try to build processes. We honestly tried, but they would take people to some kind of activities, theater, animals, all of that they would have. I mean, I understand it's nice, but it's just not therapy. So yeah, they do. I did not want to say that they do not. That's why I started saying it's a rudimentary Soviet system still. And there is no psychotherapy program that it should be to really be efficient with it.
But isn't there something that you were talking about, something countrywide that they're doing for trauma, or remember you were talking about that?
For VR?
No, it was when you were talking about the other organization about sitting on some committee. Wasn't it about psychology or something new within the country?
They're trying to set it up, and we train some people, but there is no efficiency there at all. Even I will tell you that people who've been released from captivity, we have thousands of those now, and results that we're seeing, they are seeing good medical treatment, and yet still we hear cases time after time that they may be, so of course they are starving, right? So then maybe they started on food too fast and they had all kinds of effects. But for the most part, they have medical attention, psychological attention. Psychologists must be trained for it, and I don't know who else would train for the hospital. Another problem with the hospitals that the salaries are not very high. So even if you had clinicians who are trained, a lot of them would not want to work in a state hospital because it's very low paid. So no, the answer is no, they're trying to set it up, but it's not efficient at the moment. It's not efficient at the moment.
Would you like to share some of your stories from Sumi, where you were a couple weeks ago?
Sumi, I have a few shots in there.
What is Sumi?
That is Sumi is a city on the north of Ukraine. Maybe it's very close to the border with Russia, but it's not occupied, and there is really no active front lines in there. The Russians. So Ukrainians did step into Russian territory, seized one city. They were able to hold it for over a year. Then they retreated into Ukrainian territory. Russians advanced a bit to Sumy region, right, and now pushed back. But Sumy as a city has never been occupied, even when Russians advanced in the beginning of in 2022 towards Kiev. They kind of went around. But since those are territories right next to the Russian border. As you can imagine, a lot of people start moving away from there, and people who stay, they have limited services and limited mobility because all of those roads are shut through. So we'd have lots of partnerships. We really try to work together with other people. So one of those is with Frida. It's Israel Ukrainian mission with medical doctors. I went on a trip with other medical doctors, and myself and another colleague were two psychologists on a multidisciplinary team, right? So mostly doctors, and they would have specialty doctors like dermatologists, cardiologists, gynecologists, like 20 people. And we would come to the village that has no medical services and would be limited in mobility, no public transportation, and to go to another city, they a lot of times risk their life because they could be easily bombed and die. So we saw about 150 people over that weekend, and we screened that many with my colleague. And then once we screened, we're able to see people who are most critical and need help. So I saw two people who were very high on suicide risk. One already bought a rope, wanted to hang himself, and we were able to process that risk down to zero, basically in a matter of, it was a longer session, maybe 1 hour and 20 minutes, something of that nature. You would see that session actually, this is actually Suma, that borscht that they're making in the gas stove.
Right, well, you mean coming down to zero, and EMDR you go from 10 to 0.
10 to 0, meaning, yeah, the risk is 0, meaning there is no risk. So yeah, and I was so glad that he was a very cool person. He had his own tractor, and one thing that you will notice, there's several shots under the net, it's a discussion whether or not those nets are really helpful. But they put nets over the highways close to the border and front lines, thinking that if the drone is falling down, that would slow them down. And supposedly there are some drones that exploit on a contact, so that net would be first contact, and so it doesn't harm the car. That is the idea. So you drive through that basically net tunnel, and you see winter wheat on the fields. You see the tractor on the fields. So those guys are still working the fields, even though the risk of being killed in drones is very high. Though we talked to local, it's like an emergency point, and they said they got a lot of referrals from the tractor drivers and people who work in the agriculture, so they are really traumatized by those bombs. Bombs and mines, I'm not sure which ones, but they get a lot of referrals. So yeah, it's when you do that, when you talk to people, it kind of really puts it in perspective, and you see that life goes on, and even in those territories there are children, there is some hopes, there is some hurts, there is some life, and it's encouraging to see.
So here in there's an initiative that's been going on for probably 5 years. It was grant funded, who knows what's happening today, but we're dealing with trauma-based therapy with individuals with significant disabilities, intellectual disabilities, and neurotypical, atypical individuals. Is there what's going on in Ukraine?
Well, chronic illnesses didn't go away, That's
Right.
still there, and this is what I see a lot when I get to those territories, because a lot of times who stayed behind, people who could not move, so didn't have a place to move, and I actually see quite a few referrals for those reasons. And the areas that are close to front lines, it's hard to help because they have limited cell phone and internet connection, and you can imagine you cannot help in one session in those situations. So if you have some internet and some phone, you're able maybe to maintain some contact and help parents and help caregivers and make sure they have medication and things like that. But yeah, it's difficult. And then of course all of the like Alzheimer's and all of the disorders that happen naturally, they are even more exacerbated. Heart attacks, all of that happen because of stress as well, right? And some of the psychotic symptomology may be also just more pronounced. I remember one woman that we've seen, She was from Kharkiv area. Kharkiv is another city like Sumy, very close to front lines, but big city that was never captured, but heavily bombed. And she was there during heavy bombings. And she came to see me, I think it was Donetsk region, I can't remember which location we were at, but one of those front lines, like close to the front lines territories that had limited medical services. Might have been another Sumy trip. And so she comes in, I think it was old school, not old school, just a school in that area. And so it's a desk, like a teacher's desk, you know, like small desk that I'm sitting typing notes and she's sitting on the side. And she looks at me clearly and says, I know if something happens, I will climb under your desk. And it's like her first reaction. So like she's gauging her safety. I'm like, yeah, that desk is not no help, but she's gonna hide. She's gonna hide, and she doesn't remember where she is. She doesn't, but she knows if it's bombing, she was gonna climb under the desk. So she was living with her sister, who took her from Kharkiv, took care of her, but she was declining pretty quickly. So yeah, all of that is in there. The best thing is what we can do is to train people who are there and can help people around them, you know. And it's like when we come to the hospital or some area and we see that there's some services set up but they don't have psychologists on staff, we say, okay, do you have anybody capable? Do you have a school? Do you have interns? Send them to us. It's online education. We'll provide online supervision, which is internet or phone connection, and we'll take responsibility for what they do in your place, in your location. So we have a bunch of those, and also military ones as well. We've been able to build good relationships, excellent relationships with a number of units and psychologists. With Honor Guard. Honor Guard is another thing, another partnership we have. Those are the guys that do burials. So as you can, before they would be doing president marching, you know, all of the delegations. Now Honor Guard is doing burials, military burials. And we started about a year and a half ago working with them. I remember doing work with some heads of those units. They've done like 200 burials at that time. I don't know how many now. And so the level of dissociation when you don't remember what is like happening, what's going on, is like very high. It's one thing, of course, that you learn very quickly with trauma. When you see zero symptoms, you look at dissociation at the same time, because the level of dissociation is high. They don't remember how they do those burials. It's just all a blur. So we do some work with a number of units, and our next thing that I would like to see happen is that we train those clinicians that on front lines, those military psychologists that are on the line, like on the line one, to be able to provide early interventions. And we've seen a little bit of resistance from local community to do that. I'm like, well, they're not clinicians in a clinical thing. Of course you do, but they're the ones that are there. In that, and if you provide training and supervision, they will be able to again help people around them, right? It's one thing that I learned in my doctoral program. We've been told, hey, when you come to a new culture, new system, new something, find people who are already doing the work and train them, like whoever they are, teachers, school psychologists, pastors, ministers. Find those people, identify who are the people who are doing mental health services and train them. So those are the ones that are doing work, that are with soldiers. Soldiers are, this specific unit I'm thinking about, I've been there about, 2 weeks ago, right before Thanksgiving. And at that point, that unit was on positions for 70 days, no rotation. And when I'm saying no rotation, I'm not meaning them coming back to home, no rotation to line one. They are on positions, not able to leave. So no evacuation, because Russians right now do not let evacuation. They just keep bombing. You cannot get to people who are wounded. So it's pretty bad and pretty sad. So if you train people who are there, I think that is at least some help, immediate help with what they can do being there on positions. So being there close to positions. So yeah.
Just to answer your question about developmental problems and atypical or, we do have a lot of work, work that's being done in EMDR with that. And it started in Holland, and well, Susan Darker-Smith is doing a lot with neurotypical kids and adults as well.
Because a lot of the mental health centers still in the United States, they see somebody with intellectual deficits, and we can't do that.
There's a ton of it being done in Holland, and they have research on it as well. If you want to connect, I can give you some of that information, but they've been doing a tremendous amount, and they work with the trauma, because of course they have so much trauma given how people treat folks with that and shame.
Do I need to share anything else?
Where do your teammates come from?
Teammates?
Yeah. People you work with. Do they come from the United States? Do they come from Ukraine?
We have a large team, I should say that. We have about 50 people from the United States, maybe more, and about that number from Ukraine for the core team that is doing education, right? Education supervision. So we have also child and adolescent wing that is associated with American Play Therapy Association. And so a lot of the core team comes as graduates of Regent University from the PhD program mostly. So those, we have at Regent, we have a very large PhD program, about 70 students, and lots of them are like service-minded, missions-oriented, and they really love helping. So, and once they graduate, defend their dissertations, a lot of them stay with us. So that provides really good quality professionals engagement and also research, ongoing research on things that we do, because we need to make sure we're doing a good job. People in Ukraine, we train and then we keep them as well. So we have 3 levels of training. One is clinical, then we do supervision, and then we do instructorship, which second and third is basically some doctoral courses with supervision and teaching. So we do that, but then we also develop different partnerships like this one with virtual reality. That is colleagues from Netherlands, and we have that joint project in hospitals right now. We have colleagues also at the University of Southern California with another VR project that is Brave Mind called. Where you basically do, with a headset, you do some like exposure experience, and then we pair it up with EMDR. So that is working. That is working good. So yeah.
Well, thank you. That was